The first casualty of any war is truth. Right now, we're in crazy global times. We see everything that's going on in the Ukraine, in Russia. I'm sure right now China is watching this eagerly, waiting to see what's going to happen there. There are a lot of parallels there going on. And if you actually go into social media in all of these places, there are some things that are being spoken about that are going on that just aren't percolating up into the mainstream media, which for me allows me to get a very interesting and unique perspective on what's going on. I've been reading a lot over these past couple of weeks in the language forums and different forums across the internet. Which language should I learn? Or people saying that I'm going to be learning Ukrainian now or Russian now. Other people are learning Chinese so that they can get in and see what's actually happening on the ground there. So right now, given everything that's going on, which language should you be learning? For me, I would say all of them. The more that you can learn, the more information you're going to be able to get. There's something very unique about the times we're living in now compared to, say, during the First or Second World War when all of this stuff was going on, and that's what we're communicating through now, through social media. In this week's Minecraft session, we actually looked at the United States military's Defense Language Aptitude Battery exam. So what is that? This is an exam that US military personnel from across all of the forces will take to see what their aptitude is in learning a language. This thing looks at pattern matching, the ability to learn languages. What's really interesting about this exam is that it doesn't focus on any one language. In fact, it focuses on a pretend language, and it tests people's ability to start to match patterns and to see, do they have what it takes to learn a language? So in Minecraft, you're actually set up quite well to pass these kinds of exams because we focus so much on pattern matching. So when you see any of these kinds of questions in the US military's language aptitude battery exam, you can actually see what they're trying to look for because we've seen specimens of that, and you can get through it with good reasoning. So I think that, well, first of all, anyone who's going through Minecraft would probably be able to take a really good shot at getting a very high grade in one of these language learning aptitude tests. But just going through this test and thinking about how it's used, why it's used. Now, usually this is used for military personnel to see whether they're going to be good enough to learn a language, and if so, what language. But this test comes from a past era, a past age. And I think that we are actually in a new era where it's not just military personnel that can be and should be learning a language. Right now, everybody on the planet actually has the ability to learn the language for similar reasons. Why do military people learn the language? One, so that they can analyze data that's coming in. Maybe it's signals intelligence or any kind of intelligence that's coming in. So they can sit and analyze that. They can do their intelligence reports, feed them up so that policy can be made. The other reason that people might be using languages in the military is that they might be on the ground. They might be either undercover or in a position on the ground, officially, unofficially, where they need to use the language, and that language is the interface with the people, either overtly or covertly. They need to have different degrees of language. So if you're just an analyst, maybe you don't need to have proficient spoken language, but if you're actually on the ground, you need to have that prosody in the language. But all of these things in the past were maybe relegated to the military. Right now, everyone on the planet not only has the ability to be able to do this, but you have access to some of the most amazing sources of intelligence to be able to gather information up and work out what's really going on the ground. And not only that, I think now that we have social media, we have things like Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Telegram, we have WeChat, we have all of these platforms that not only we can receive information, but narratives can be started to be put across, where in the past maybe governments would control the media outlets, which would control the information. Now, having the language not only allows you to be able to receive and analyze it for yourself, but you can actually then put your findings out and we can have a much more rich discussion. We can have richer information that goes out there. So I guess the point that I'm really trying to make here now is that I don't think that language learning, especially to these high degrees, should be relegated to just the military. Right now, everybody has the opportunity to learn language. If you can learn Russian, and Ukrainian. I actually started learning Russian a couple of years back, and then I realized how close many of the other Slavic languages were, and Inter-Slavic, I did some clips on that, and then that led me into Ukrainian, into Polish, into Serbian, into all of these other languages there, and the links are so close. If you're looking at the Slavic languages, I would suggest learning Russian, because then you can get into the Church Slavonic, which then can take you out into many of these other languages, and also learning something like Polish and getting out there. But you'll find that you'll be able to quickly jump into the different Slavic languages and get a very clear picture. And then once you've learnt those, there are some amazing open source intelligence tools. I've showed this tool before in some of my clips when we've been learning language. But for example, I just did a search here on, this is using Twint. It's a Twitter open source intelligence gathering tool that's totally free. And here, I've just done Twint near Kiev. And so these are all the latest posts that have come out from the geolocated Twitter posts from around Kiev. And so you can actually see posts coming out of there in all these different languages. And so your ability then to speak Russian, to understand Ukrainian, you can actually start to go in and see what people are talking about. And people who are then on the ground there, you can see hashtags that are being used. And then you can start surfing around on these hashtags that are coming out of there. If you don't speak the language, it's going to make it that much more difficult to be able to understand what's going on the ground there. So I would say, don't just learn Russian, learn Ukrainian, learn all of these, and let the actual open source intelligence here be the vehicle that you learn the language through, because these are such rich, real specimens of the language. You can actually start analyzing some of these, and not only are you getting rich information that maybe you're not getting through the different news outlets, you're actually learning language along the way. I mentioned in the beginning, should I learn Chinese, Russian, Ukrainian? Well, Chinese, I really think is a language that everybody should be at least getting abreast of, or some general foundations in the language, at least how to understand pinyin when people speak, or names, just some few base characters that you can get, because now you can actually start using some of these tools to source information from mainland China, from Taiwan, from the Chinese-speaking world, Singapore, Malaysia, and in Europe, in North America, in Australia, and see what they're saying. And not only those countries, I'm actually also tapping into information coming out of all of the different countries in China's Belt and Road Initiative, because there are going to be some interesting geopolitical moves that I think that are going to come up in the future, seeing who's going to stand by who can control whom, based on who's indebted to whom. Who's going to be protected? Supposing the West doesn't protect X country, well then what are the other countries around this big country going to do? We don't know that, but you can start to get a feel from what's going to go on the ground there. And me living in the region here, I want to know that information. So not only understanding Chinese is important for me, but understanding the languages of around this region, and even in any of the countries that say China has these Belt and Road initiatives. You want to be getting the information off the ground now to see what's going to be happening, because what we're seeing happen in the Ukraine, what we're seeing happen, say, in Taiwan, these are not isolated things. It's this tapestry that's knitted together, and we're going to be seeing things played out. The key to understanding what's really going on is actually getting the information from the ground. And the only way that you can really understand the information from the ground is to understand the language too. So yes, these are really tragic times, what we're seeing happening on the planet. But looking at a silver lining, maybe this is the impetus that people are going to use to start learning a new language, to start learning new critical thinking skills, and being able to deduce information and separate it from the source. See motivations, why people are putting specific information out, and start putting the picture together. But these times are really different compared to, say, World War II, World War I, or even in Vietnam, where everybody has access to information. It's what we do with that information that's going to make a difference. And I really believe now that the information is in everybody's hands and we have these platforms, everybody can make a difference. The thing that is really going to make a difference, though, is your ability with the language. So I hope that over the coming months, I'll be able to inspire some people to take up a new language, maybe several new languages, and start to get into this. If not for anything else, just to be able to understand what's going on the ground and make informed decisions about all of the craziness that's going on around us. If you are in the military and you're going to be taking one of these language learning aptitude tests, well, jump into Minecraft, or anybody who wants to learn a language for that matter, because we have a fantastic community of learners, and all of the stuff that we do in Minecraft actually sets your mind up to be able to learn language as well. So scan the QR code, join in the discussion with us. I'm Stuart J. Raj, and I'll see you on the other side.